welcome. In this video, I wanted to give my take on how to run a escape room scenario with only one player, and what I would do to try to keep that as an immersive experience rather than a non-immersive one. The first thing I would do is, and to be perfectly frank, I've never actually gone to an escape room. I haven't had that experience. I think I understand what it entails, where you're put into a room and you and others with you have to look through a number of objects or clues that are hidden in the room that give you the key to unlocking a door to get out of the room, or how to get out of the room. And you have a time limit, I understand. So the first thing I would do is I would have a number of reference images that I'd create, preferably very high resolution with details, lots and lots of details in these photographs. And then of those photographs, I'd have also, and those would be immediately available to the player. What wouldn't be immediately available to the player, but I would have close at hand, would be more detailed photos or images of objects that the character may interact with when they look at those objects, the reference objects, or the reference photos, we'll call them. And the idea here is that I would set the parameters for the player that they can look at those photos. They're there in the room. Any object they see in those photos, they can interact with. They have to tell me where they're going, what object they're picking up, and what they're doing with the object. When they pick up an object and they say, I'm going over to here to the bookcase, and I see there's this red bound leather tome on the bookshelf, and I'm going to pull that out. And then I would have other images at hand, as I mentioned, that I could give to the player as they interact with a given object. And now some of these would be legitimate clues. Many of them would not. They'd be red herrings, where they would have more information on this, but it's not necessarily going to move them along. That's how I would do it, rather than have them just ask me questions, because there's no one to ask questions in the room. I'm not there. All they have is just their own eyes to see what's there in front of them. It would be fun in person to actually have some props as well, where they pick something up, and I actually have a three-dimensional physical object that I can hand them. This is what you see. And then I can hand them that object, and they can turn around, manipulate, and then tell me what they do with the object, or where it leads them next, if anywhere. If I could, and this may be cheating, I would really be tempted to add an intercom system and I don't believe this is part of a normal escape room. I don't think the staff at the escape room establishments taunt or provide any feedback whatsoever to those that are locked into the escape room. But it would be a lot of fun to introduce a dialogue element here, where there's an unreliable narrator that from time to time will come over on the PA system. Now, not necessarily to have a conversation, although that I think would be great. It introduces another character into the scene, and then there's some more chance for interaction. It also allows for some impetus for timing. This is a character versus environment situation. There's a time limit involved. What's going on? There should be some pressure, especially as time goes on. Like, you've got to solve this or you fail. So that's what I would do. I would be heavily invested in the images that would be ready, so that the players can then do that, and then they can decide what objects that player will interact with and how they'll interact with it. And if I'm allowed the intercom thing, then I would want to have that. So there is some dialogue still between me and the character, or the player character. So that's my take on it. A fascinating problem. I'm really tempted now to try it. I have a prelude session coming up here shortly for a player, and I'm I'm wondering if there's some way that I can introduce an escape room element there to try it out and see how it goes, and see if the player has a good time with it, or if it's just an exercise in frustration, and how does it work out. So I don't, not speaking from any expertise on this, just giving my hot take on how I would do a one-on-one escape room scenario. Thanks for the question, and very interested to hear how you would do it. What would you do? And please leave a comment and tell me, well, that's a terrible idea. This is a much better way if we did it this way instead. Love to hear it. I certainly don't pretend to have all the answers on this one. This is kind of a little bit of a fringe case, I think, but I love it because it really causes me to stretch a little bit. How would you do that? It's a very interesting problem. So thanks again to Shauner for asking the question, getting the conversation started, and hopefully others will give their takes on it too. Thanks.